We've seen how it is important for us to rename our multimedia files when working on a website project. So let's go ahead and take a look at how to go about that in WYSIWYG Web Builder. So I already have a sample project opened, but what I'm more interested in has to do with the files that I use in here. So if you come to this section, you realize I have a couple of images, as well as I think that's just about it. But multimedia content will have to do with images, videos, audios, PDFs, and so more, many more, animations and the rest. But I'm restricting this particular video to images. That's what I have available now, but it's fine. You can go ahead and then download videos, audios, and then try this on them as well. So basically what we are talking about has to do with the names of the files on the disk of our website project. You realize I have this particular image called macro, and then I have a number set to it, and then which is fine. Under normal circumstance, you are likely to have something like this. So you have the image, you have the name, which is macro, and then you have the number set to it, and then there probably might not even be underscore in here. What I'm trying to point you or trying to drag your attention to has to do with the way you rename your files before you go ahead and use them in your website project. Now, WYSIWYG Web Builder is a web builder, and whatever object, whatever multimedia content you use in there, it creates a folder and then keeps everything in there. It is very important for you to rename your files in a very appropriate way to prevent broken links or broken access to those particular multimedia files. So all what I'm trying to say is, so for instance, instead of trying to keep a space with this particular image, all we can do is, instead of that, we bring a hyphen in here or a dash in there, which is going to still give us some kind of connection to that particular or to the other text or the to the other text or the name we have for our multimedia content in here. Instead of using image that is hyphen or dash, you can go ahead and then use an underscore as well, which is basically also going to represent the same thing. We are basically trying to prevent the broken link we have in between our names so that it doesn't cause any problem in our project. So let me just take this off, click on OK, and then let me try to search for this particular image. Or even before doing that, let me do that here. So once, whichever multimedia content you add to your website project, it shows you a link to that particular object. So you get to see, so this is actually a link to the image I'm using in here. Let's say instead of having a hyphen here, I have a space instead. When I click on OK, you realize there's a problem. There's a broken link to that particular image because of the space in there. So just like I was saying, you probably would want to work with something which doesn't give any kind of broken link to that particular image or multimedia object you are working with in your website project. There are instances where you are going to be linking to those kind of multimedia content where you have links, that spaces between the names and the rest, and it's going to work fine. But the best way to go about it is to try to close up any kind of spaces by either using that is the dash, using an underscore, or working with even camel casing where. So let's just take a look at how to go about camel casing. So if I'm renaming this to all text, so let's say macro image, then I have something like this. So the I in here is actually that is uppercase, that is the capital I in here, which represent the camel casing. So you have the lower case, and then you have a mixture of that is uppercase as well, and the renaming of the text. At the end of the day, all we are trying to do is to try and as much as possible to prevent or stop or avoid having spaces between our file names so that it doesn't end up causing problems in the near future when we are working on our project. So let me just come back in here and then relink this to the appropriate image I have in here. So let me just come back, and then I think I should have this on my desktop, and then link it to this particular image. And then when I click on OK, it's basically going to be fine. So this is one clue when working on your website project. Try as much as possible to avoid spaces, because spaces in between your file names are likely to affect you in the near future if it doesn't affect you now. So try as much as possible to rename your files before working with them. And then before I even go, you realize when I before I rename this particular image, let me just come to the original image. You realize it has a number to it. Now, when you're using numbers for your file names, numbers probably doesn't make sense to even an individual, because if I'm reading these numbers, I have 424. What is the 424? Instead of that, I could just rename this particular image to, let's say, macro flower image, because I have flowers in there. And this makes a lot of sense. So under normal circumstance, instead of having a name which doesn't have any sense to it, you can go ahead and rename your images to something that makes has some kind of meaning to it, so that if this image is being presented to an individual or a human being, without opening the file, you even get to see, or you get to know, or have an idea about whatever is being contained in this particular image. So that's also one way you probably would want to go about renaming your file. So avoiding spaces, renaming your files to meaningful names. That is going to give your search engines, especially the reports that are going to visit your site, a clear meaning or understanding of what particular file type or what particular file, and then what is being contained in that particular file in there. So that's one way to go about renaming of your images in your WYSIWYG Web Builder website project.